Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about graphing linear inequalities again, okay, but really also focusing on where do we find, okay, solutions when we deal with graphing linear inequalities. So where do we find them? There's only two places. In the shaded area, okay, or we can also find them on a solid line. So notice I have two examples here drawn out for you. So in the first example, okay, which I notice it's a solid line, and I see the shaded area. So obviously any point in the shaded area, okay, will be a good answer. But also, because this line is solid, any point on this line, okay, would also give me a justifiable answer. So anything on this type of situation is a good solution. Alright, so either on the solid line or in the shaded area. Now, in my other situation, the only place that I can find a solution is in this shaded area. Okay, only the shaded area. So any point in this shaded area would be a solution. Notice this line is dashed. You cannot pick a point on a dashed line to be a solution. Okay, that would be incorrect, doesn't work. So only, okay, only in the shaded area if you have a dashed line, which is exactly what we see right here. Okay. So number 1 and 2, we're going to determine whether the ordered pair is a solution for the inequality. So notice I have the ordered pair, and I already have marked what x is and what y is, and we should always know, okay, x is always the first value, y is always our second value. So all I'm going to do is substitute in those number values into my inequality. So 2 times x plus 3 times y is greater than or equal to 14. So first value is x, okay, and that's what I see right there. X is the number 5. Second value that goes in is the y, which is, in this case, 2. Is basic math. 2 times 5, 10, plus 3 times 2 is 6, is greater than or equal to 14. I can combine these like terms because they're alike. 16 is greater than or equal to 14. Is that true? This is true, so therefore this point, 5, 2, is a solution for that inequality. So we're going to do the exact same thing now for the second problem. Notice, again, I've already have labeled my x value and I have labeled my y value. So all I'm going to do is plug in negative 3y minus 2 times x is less than 12. So the first value is y according to here, so that's a negative 6. Second value in is x, which is 5. Okay, notice I'm just substituting in. Now let's work out the math. Negative 3 times negative 6 is 18 minus 10, 2 times 5 is 10, is less than 12. 18 minus 10 is 8. Okay, so is 8 less than 12? Yes, that is true. 8 is less than 12, so therefore that point 5 comma negative 6 is a solution. Okay, notice it's not going to work all the time. Sometimes we might get something that's not true, and if it's not true, then it is not a solution. Okay, any questions so far? Hopefully not. We're good to go. Graphing, okay? Graphing we should already know how to do. Remember, when we graph, we always begin with B, okay? But notice I always have to make sure that I have y by itself, okay? So first thing I need to do here, and I'm going to write my 3 letters to help me, B, C, D. First thing is to box my variable, which is the negative 4y. Now, what do you notice about that box? Hopefully you notice that it's negative. And if our box is negative, yes flip or no flip? Hopefully you all are circling yes flip. So therefore I have to flip that inequality the other direction. Now, is there anything next to this box to cancel it? No, so I don't have to cancel, so I'm just going to bring everything down. Alright, so only thing I have to do now is D, which stands for divide. I'm going to divide everything by negative 4. So we end up with y is greater than or equal to 16 divided by negative 4 is negative 4x. 8 divided by negative 4 is negative 2. Okay, I'm just going to write y equals mx plus b underneath because it helps me clearly see what's the slope, what's my y-intercept. My slope, I'm going to make sure I write it like a fraction, negative 4 over 1. My y-intercept is negative 2. Notice I need to pay attention to what kind of inequality sign I have here. Okay, it's greater than or equal to. Okay, greater than or equal to, which tells me two things. If it's or equal to, okay, that means it's a solid line. Okay, and what kind of gives that away is the fact that it has a solid line underneath it. Okay, kind of helpful. And because it's greater, right, if I'm the greatest, I'm going to be shading on top or above. Okay, I'm above everybody. I'm the greatest. So we have pretty much all our information. Hopefully you guys remember we begin with b, which is negative 2. Now we have to use my slope to find other points. Remember, slope, rise over run. According to my slope, negative 4 means I go down 4, and then positive 1 means I go to the right 1. So from that point, the y-intercept, I'm going to go down 4 and to the right 1 and put another point. Okay, notice I can't go down any further, so I'm going to go the opposite direction. Okay, once I have enough points, pay attention to what you wrote down. Solid or dashed. We said solid, so I can actually draw a solid line here. If you need to draw your stick figure man on the line, that's fine to help you figure out where's above and where's below. Okay, above is going to be at the top of the y-axis, so basically this whole area here. Alright, that whole area. Now, next question is, where do we find solutions? Hopefully, if you remember from the first slide, we find solutions in two places, on a solid line and in the shaded region. Well, do we have both of those situations? Yeah, we do. We have a solid line and we have our shaded region. So let's pick a point on the solid line first. Let's see. Let's go with this point. And that point here is negative 2, comma, positive 6. And where did we find that? Excuse my handwriting. On a solid line. Okay, well, let's find another point. Notice my shading is tough to kind of see, but I guarantee you another good point would be like there, which I'm just going to say that's 1, 1. I know positive 1 over 1, up 1 is good, and that's in the shaded area. Okay, you can see your shading a lot better than I can, so make sure you pick a point in the shaded area. Next problem, same situation. Notice the nice thing for this one is it's already solved for y. Perfect. Okay, so I'm just going to write y equals mx plus b. What you should notice here is that the mx, right, our x value is gone. It's disappeared. Well, what's the only number that can make x disappear? 0. So this is really saying y is greater than 0x plus 5. Okay, so in other words, our slope here is 0. Our y-intercept is 5. Now, based on our inequality, which is greater than, okay, notice our shading is going to be greater, so that means it's shading on top, because if you're greater, you're on top of the world, you're above everybody. There's no line underneath it, so that tells me that this line is going to be dashed, okay? Did we have to flip here? There was no need to flip because if I box that variable, notice it's positive, so no flip needed. So let's go ahead and graph, begin with b, which is positive 5. Now, what do we know about a zero slope? Hopefully we remember zero slopes are horizontal lines, right? So there's not really a need, we can't go up 0 to the right 0. That means we're basically not going anywhere. So it's a horizontal line. So here's my little Pac-Man, or not my Pac-Man guy, but here's a little man on my line. And I'm shading on top. Now notice I've already made one mistake. Because what kind of line did we say? We said dashed. So I'm going to go ahead and put some dashes in here. Okay, this is why it's important, and this is exactly why I make you guys write it down first. Okay, it's an easy mistake to make because it's out of habit. So now I'm going to shade this part above him, okay, because we're shading on top. So everything up here above the line. Now the next question is, where do we find solutions? Well, on a solid line or in the shaded area. Do we have a solid line? No. So the only place we can find it is in the shaded area, okay? And we should be able to pick out 2 points in the shaded area. Let's see. I'm going to go with 6, 1. Or I have that backwards, my bad. 1, 6. Where did I find that? In the shaded area. Okay, and another point could be 3, 7. Okay, also found it in the shaded area. Notice we have a lot of different points that we could pick from. Alright, next one here. First thing we need to do, and I'm going to write my, my 3 letters to help me. B, C, D. First thing I need to do is box my variable. Check. Notice the box is negative. So what does that mean? It means I have to flip. So yes, I have to flip this inequality sign the other direction. Alright? So notice I have something next to this box to cancel, which is the 4x. So let me cancel it by making it minus 4x. Okay? So we get, cancel what's beside our box, negative 8y is greater than or equal to negative 4x minus 16. Notice I just bring them both down because they're not like terms. Last step, D for divide. I'm dividing everything by negative 8. So our final answer is y is greater than or equal to, that gives us positive 1/2 x. Negative 16 divided by negative 8 is also going to be positive 2. Now that we have this, I'm going to write y equals mx plus b just to help me clearly see what my slope and y-intercept is. Okay, so I see that the slope is 1/2, which basically means that I'm going to go up 1, to the right 2. I see that our y-intercept is positive 2. Now let's look at our inequality sign, which is greater than or equal to. Remember what we said, greater, you're on top, you're above everybody. Notice it has that solid line underneath, right? Solid line underneath, so therefore our line has got to be solid. So let's go ahead and graph this. Go ahead and pause the video and try graphing this yourself. Alright, so hopefully that's the line that you have. Notice it's solid. Okay, I have all my points. I drew my little man on it because now I have to shade on top. And I'm shading, basically that means above him. So everything up here above him is what I should be shading. Okay, hopefully your shading looks better than mine. Now, where do we find 2 solutions? Alright, well, one solution I can find, I know, on the solid line. So I'm going to actually use the y-intercept, which is 0, 2, as a solution because it's on, right, the solid line. Another point then could be one that I find on the shaded region. Or I could pick another point on the solid line, totally up to you. Let's go with another one on the solid line. So that would be 2, 3. Notice I found that one also on the solid line. You have a lot of options. Alright, special situation here. Notice our variable, it's just x. So let me follow my steps, B, C, D. First thing I need to do is box the variable. Well, there's only one, so that made it simple. The box is positive, so no need to flip. But I do notice there's nothing next to the box to cancel it, so no need for that. So basically my only step then really is to D, which stands for divide. I'm going to divide both sides by 2. 2 divided by 2 gives us 1x, which is what we want, is greater than 4 divided by 2 is 2. Now this is a special situation because it begins with x. So hopefully we remember anytime that you have an equation that begins with x, the line is a vertical line because it has no slope or an undefined slope. So technically it does not have a y-intercept, but it does have a x-intercept, and the x-intercept for this situation is at positive 2. Now, let's look at the inequality sign, which is greater than. Okay, greater we know is on top. The line here, there's no line underneath it, so therefore we know that we're going to be shading, or that the line is going to be dashed. Okay, no line underneath, we're dashed line. So, my first point is going to be on the x-intercept at positive 2. We already know because it's a no slope that this line, okay, is going to be vertical. And notice I'm dashing the line. Notice I didn't get carried away and do a solid line. Now the issue here is technically you can't shade on top or bottom of a vertical line. You either shade to the right or to the left. Now remember, if we have a number line, okay, our bigger numbers go to the right and our smaller numbers go to the left. So top would also signify then to the right because we're looking for bigger values. Okay, greater, bigger, we're going to the right. Okay, so that's the area that I should shade. Now, where do we find solutions? Remember, okay, we find solutions in 2 places, solid lines or shaded area. Do you have a solid line? No. So the only place that we can find it is in the shaded area. Alright, so let's pick out 2 points, and I'll go with that one, which is an x-intercept, but it's 3, 0, and I found that in the shaded area. Okay, and another point, I'm going to go with that one, which is 4, 2. Where did I find it? On the shaded area. Alright, now we're working a little bit backwards. This time we're given the graph and we have to write all the information we know. Okay, now obviously the easiest information is to look to see what type of line and how is it shaded. Now the line, we can see it's solid. Now if it's solid, I know it's out of these 2 options, which are the ones that have the solid line underneath. Now I noticed that if I draw my little stick figure man, okay, it's shaded on top or above him, so that means it has to be greater. Well, greater than or equal to. So that's my inequality sign that I'm going to use. I can see that the y-intercept is here, which is 1, 2, 3, positive 4. In order to find a slope, you need how many points? 2 points. I have 2 points. Notice the line is going downhill, right? Downhill. So therefore, I know that the slope is going to be a negative answer. I'm going down 1, 2, 3, 4. So down 4. And I'm going to go to the right 2. Well, what does that reduce to? Negative 4 over 2 reduces to negative 2. So our slope is negative 2. If we have all the information, we can write our inequality, y equals mx plus b. But remember, instead of an equal sign, it's greater than or equal to. So y is greater than or equal to negative 2x plus 4. Alright, this next problem, very similar. Okay, notice they already graphed the line for us. Okay, but one little problem with their equation is that it's not solved for y. So that means that's the first thing that we need to do. So first, according to my steps, right, B, C, D, box my variable. Already did it. It's positive, so no flip needed. Now I need to add 3x to both sides, because that's how I cancel what's beside my box. So I end up with 2y is greater than 3x plus 6. Now I need to divide everything, right? D for it, divide everything by 2. Those cancel out to positive y is greater than 3 over 2x, because you can't reduce that, plus 6 divided by 2 does reduce to 3. Now that I have all that information, let's write what we have. The slope, 3 over 2. The y-intercept, 3. Now let's look at the inequality sign. The inequality sign is greater than or equal to. So how would we shade it? On top. Notice it does not have the solid line underneath, so our line is going to be dashed. Okay, so notice this line that they drew technically should be what? Technically should be dashed. Okay, so I'm going to kind of dash it over it so I remember that. And I would shade where? There's my little man if you need it. I'd shade on top, so that means I'm shading everything above him. Now the question wants to know is which one of these points, okay, is the solution. So let's plot those points. The first point is 0, 3. 0, 3. Notice that's not right. Sorry, that's not even the first answer choice. Sorry. Let's start with A. 2, 5. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, notice is that on, well, where do we find solutions? Remember, we only find solutions on solid lines, which we don't have, so the only place we can find a solution is in the shaded area. Is that in the shaded area? No. Now B, 0, 1, 2, 3. 0, 3 is on the line, but the line is dashed, so therefore that's not a solution. It has to be solid. Let's look at the next point. Negative 2, 0. Well, that point is also on the dashed line, so that's also not the answer. So let's make sure that D is correct. Negative 3, negative 1, what do you know? That's the only point in the shaded area. Here are some key phrases and reminders, okay? So make sure you read through them. Just wanted to remind you again that when you box your variable, okay, if it's negative, then you have to make sure that you flip that sign the opposite direction, okay? So take some time, read through it. I'm going to go ahead and just put your focus because you're going to see these two words quite a bit, okay? So you got to make sure that you know the difference. Number 9. You are saving your money for a trip to the World Cup in Brazil. So far, you have $175 saved, and you earn $8.50 per hour at your job. The question is, how many hours would you need to work to save at least $2,000 for your trip? So, $8.50 per hour. So notice we're trying to figure out what the hour is. So let's say that that's hour X. Well, how much money do we already have saved? $175. And hopefully we remember that the word and means to add. We're adding the $8.50 per hour. Per, hopefully you remember, represents multiplication. So 8.50 per hour, or in other words, 8.50x. And we want to save at least $2,000. So I know $2,000 is the total amount we're looking for. So the question is, what inequality sign do we use? If you need to, you can go back and look at your page, at your paper, and see what sign goes with at least. Hopefully you see that it is greater than or equal to. That is the inequality, and we're moving on to the next one. Number 10. You work at a local library. You are in charge of a $180 budget. So that's basically the total amount of money we have, okay, for new books and DVDs, not DVS, DVDs. You can buy books for $8, and you can buy DVDs for $2. So write an inequality that shows the number of books and DVDs you can buy. So notice here we have two things we're talking about. Books, so let's let be our X, and we have DVDs, and we'll let that be our Y. So how would we write that we pay $8 for books? Hopefully you all say 8X. And there's that keyword, which means plus. You're going to pay $12 for DVDs. So how would you write $12 for DVDs? 12. Why? Now don't put an equal sign, right? Because we have a budget of $180. So can we spend more than $180? No. The only amount we can spend is $180. So in this situation, we can't go over 180, so we have to use less than or equal to, because we have exactly 180 and we can spend all of it. So there's our inequality sign. Next question or inequality, B. Is 8, 9 a solution of the inequality? Okay, so let's break this down. 8, 9. I know 8 represents X, and I know 9 represents Y. So all we have to do is plug it in to our inequality that we already wrote and see if it's true. So where I see X, okay, there's the first parentheses, and that number is supposed to be 8. The second parentheses I see is supposed to be the letter Y, and that's 9. So go ahead and pause this and try and work it out yourself. Alright, so if you did your work, you should have got 172 is less than or equal to 180. Is that true? Yes, 172 is less than or equal to 180. So because this is true, that means that this point here is a good solution. Okay, so what does it mean? It basically means here X represents the books, Y represents the DVDs. So I can buy 8 books and 9 DVDs and be under $180. A clothing store is going out of business and is having a huge sale. They're selling pants for $10.99 and shirts for $4.99. You can spend at most $45. So let's go ahead and write this inequality. Notice the two things that we're talking about are pants, and we'll let that be our X, and we're talking about shirts, and we'll let that be our Y. So how much do we spend for pants? $10.99. So $10.99 X, and we know and means plus. The shirts are $4.99 Y for shirts. Don't put an equal sign. Now the total amount we have is $45. So we can spend at most $45. So if you need to, look back and check what inequality sign would we use. Hopefully you guys agree that it's less than or equal to. Okay, so question 2. How much would 2 shirts and 2 pairs of pants cost? Well, that's easy for us to figure out. We know that the pants are $10.99 and we want to buy 2 of them. Plus, the shirts are $4.99 and we also want to buy 2 of them. So let's see what we get, and the question is, will we have enough money to buy this? So $10.99, go ahead and work this out on your own. Alright, so when I worked this out, $10.99 times 2 gave me $21.98. $4.99 times 2 gave me $9.98. If I add it all together, I have a total of $31.96. So the question is that total amount that I got less than or equal to 45? Because that's how much money I have to spend. Hopefully you notice that the answer is true, right? $31.96 is less than 45. So we're good to go. That is true. So basically this statement is true. We have enough money to buy 2 shirts and 2 pants. That's pretty much it for today. Hopefully you guys understand it. Notice this is part 2, day 2 of what we've already done.